Wen, we're going to ask you to come and give a little explanation as to what kind of benefits long-term you can receive in negotiation needs and learning skills.
I thought it was a little bit later, but okay. So like May said, there's like a lot of opportunity to get involved in competition. And so when we say competition, we're talking about competitive teams where you're going and representing a law school against other schools in national teams. These are like super fun. You get to learn some like actual useful skills that you'll use throughout your legal career, but also you get to go somewhere. But last year, everyone was supposed to go somewhere, but we kind of got derailed by COVID. One of our teams went, our Quascomon team, which is the Indigenous negotiation teams, they went to Montreal. But this year, all the competitions, wherever they are, we'll be sending our teams. So the school pays for you to go. You get to go meet other schools, have a lot of fun. Sometimes you like get an unlucky card in the competitions in Toronto. Like a bummer when I did the Canadian National Negotiation Competition and the Walsh Family Law. They were both in Toronto. And we like at Osgood we posted. So it's like you go somewhere different. You like literally had like go to your training class and then go to the afternoon. But they're super fun. They're a really great opportunity to build your network as well. We've talked a lot about like networking, how to start that. When you're on a competitive team, your coaches are lawyers in the field. Our negotiation team this year, their coaches were from Goodman's and I think like in-house TELUS, right? So you get to make some really great connections, and you don't even have to be on the competitive teams to make those connections. When you're actually doing the negotiations, like the Lincoln Alexander Cup, the in-house ones, we bring in lawyers to judge it. And so you get one really good feedback, but you also get some networking, you get some connections. Otherwise, I really encourage you to attend the events the Advocacy Society puts on because they help you build those skills to make it even easier to make those competitive teams because you still have to make them. We have two teams that want to make as of now. That's the Canadian National Negotiation Team and the Client Counsel Team. Also open to 2Ls and 3Ls, but traditionally 1Ls have done really well on that, so don't ever let that dissuade you from doing it. Like last year, group of 1Ls came second in Canada in the Canadian National, and 2 years ago we won the competition. Anthony was on that team that won. We placed third last time. And we placed third last year and fifth. Yeah. Actually, that was like the most disappointing thing because when we moved on to the playoff round, our school had to face each other. And it was so unfortunate. We eliminated ourselves. 50%. But anyway, I digress. I really encourage you to get involved with it. It's a ton of fun. It also looks great on resumes. Like employers love to see students get involved in moving, negotiation, just be involved in stuff. So it's great that you're here. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we'll just go into the demo now. So just to like clarify what this is, I'm going to get Jane to describe how client consult demos work or how they actually work when you were to go do it competitively at the CCC. So I know that some of the professors have already created a fact pattern for you guys, and some of you might not have a fact pattern, but today we're going to be working off a fact pattern, and I will be acting as a client, and Sophie and Lindsay, because second year, will be the interviewers. So essentially, I want you guys to pay attention to the questions that they ask and the format of the question. But if you have any questions after our demonstration, or if something just doesn't match with what your professors have told you, always adhere to what your professor has told you, or ask your professors first. So another thing is that I also have a secret information, which I will only Lindsay and Sophie if they ask the right question. So pay attention to how they lead themselves to asking those questions and how one question leads to another question. But essentially the goal of the client consult interview is basically using your time efficiently to get all the information you need in order to speak on a client. Okay, do you have anything else to add?
I'll add this is a very shortened demo version. So usually it would be like around 45 minutes, and we're going to aim for around 15 minutes. So we're not going a question to depth because it's like, getting to know the person right away at the beginning, and also really just going for the questions that we have for them.
And just so everyone knows, and we got Anthony here who's going to be judging it as well. Here's the Landon will have to later. And this, as a short demo, should mimic a little bit closer to what your interviews will look like for your. Oh, and we got Yana. Amazing. Other final winner for.
And also, we haven't done this in a while, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where are we being taped from?
This is the microphone, and
Right.
then
Oh, like here.
yeah, James, is that good?
Yeah, that should work.
Okay, everyone, all good? Ready? Okay. Hi there, great to meet you today. How may I address you?
Hi, Jenny is fine.
Great to meet you, Jenny. My name is Sophie Campbell. My pronouns are she, her, and this is my co-counsel, Lindsay Poole. We're the partners here at Campbell, Poole and Associates.
It's great to meet you, Jenny. I'm also can be addressed as she, her.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
So how are you doing today, Jenny?
I'm doing okay. I just haven't been getting a lot of sleep because of an issue I've been having, but I'm just glad I'm here to see you guys about this.
Yeah, no, we're totally looking forward to helping you however we can. We're just going to ask you a few preliminary questions before we move forward. So first off, do you have any accessibility needs that you would like us to be aware of, or would you like to identify as a member of a vulnerable population?
No.
No, okay. And then as our assistant had previously communicated, I just wanted to remind you that there will be a $100 fee for today's consultation. With that in mind, are you comfortable proceeding?
Yes, I am.
Right. And then last, I'm not sure of your comfortability with the legal process. Do you have any questions for us before we get started?
I think no, but if I do have questions, I will, feel free to ask.
Yes. If you have a question at any point during our consultation, just feel free to interrupt us.
Okay.
Thanks, Jill. Now, Jenny, we understand that you're here today to discuss some loud noises being made on your street by a young person. That's
Yes.
correct? Okay, but before we dive into that,
Yes.
I'd like to give you just a brief roadmap of what you can expect from our meeting today, okay? So start to finish, our consultation should take around 15 to 20 minutes total. We'll begin by discussing just a few administrative matters so that you can feel very comfortable to speak freely with us today. We'll then move into gathering some information regarding what brought you to seek our firm's assistance. So more info surrounding this loud noise that keeps occurring. At which point we'll be asking you a lot of questions and diving into some nitty-gritty details. But rest assured, our intention is just to gather as much information as possible so we can best help you and provide you counsel. Okay.
All right.
Now, based on this information, we'll talk to you about your desired goals and outcomes and discuss our potential strategy in helping you to actually achieve those goals.
Okay.
At that point, we'll also walk through any risks that may occur and what your expectations could be surrounding those strategies, okay?
Okay.
We'll then wrap up with a discussion on our firm's fee structure and talk about any next steps that need to come from you and from us after we move forward.
Okay.
So first and foremost, Jenny, we'd like you to know that everything that is discussed today or shared between us is entirely confidential and privileged information, subject only to a few very specific legally mandated circumstances that we really don't foresee coming up here today. We'd also like to emphasize this confidentiality applies to our relationship, regardless of whether or not you choose to move forward with our firm. Okay. And finally, with respect to the information that you've already provided to us, our assistant has run a preliminary conflict check, and our system, we can confirm that we have no conflicts, past or present, that would limit us from impartially representing you and being your counsel moving forward.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Any questions on this? Lots of information.
No, that was all good.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, great. So now, Jenny, we'd like to move into gathering some information about your circumstances. If at any point you need a break, feel like we're moving too quickly through things, just feel free to let us know and we'll take a pause.
Okay.
So please let us know what brought you in today.
Well, I want to let you know that I am a retired librarian and I like the quietness, and that's why I chose librarian as my career in the first place. So I was initially living and working in the downtown area, and then there was this crazy kid who was running around naked with his friend, and it was just too much for me. So I decided to move to a more quieter area after I retired. So after I retired and moved to my new quiet neighborhood, it was all good. Everything was quiet and calm and peaceful until this family moved in, and there was a boy. I think he's like 13 or 14. I think his name was Peter. And he played the cello every day for at least 1 month. And I know I mentioned I don't really like loud noises, but I do like classical music. So I didn't really mind him playing the instrument. So, sometimes I would tune in, open my window, and listen to him play. And it didn't really bother me too much. And that is not the reason I am here. The problem happened 2 weeks ago when his crazy uncle came for Peter's birthday, and neighbor tell me that his uncle was wearing all these crazy t-shirts, his wild truck playing loud music, and he was giving Peter a lesson about what real music is. And he was saying, cello is not music, metal, heavy rock is the music you should listen to. And he gave him a bunch of these crazy CDs. And since then, Peter has been playing this loud music at full volume every day. And I just can't deal with it. And it's like really devastating for me. And I feel like I'm falling into depression and I can't sleep because the reason I moved into this neighborhood was to avoid all these, loud noises. But now Peter is playing this music every single day and I don't know what to do.
I'm so sorry to hear that this has happened to you.
Thank you.
That sounds like it must be very distressing. Can I ask how close Peter lives to you?
He lives on the same street, just a few houses down.
Okay, same street, but a few houses down.
Yes.
How many houses down, Jenny?
Like 5 houses down.
5 houses. And you can hear the music that
Oh,
loudly from
yes.
5 down.
Yes, because he blasts it at like full volume.
What times does he usually blast the music at?
It's like whenever he feels like playing the music. So it's unpredictable.
Okay, so fair to say during the day, at night?
Yes, he's
Bit of
played it both during the day and during the night.
Out of curiosity, do you have an idea of what time he would stop at night? Is it usually past 10 or 11 p.m.?
I think, I normally go to sleep at 8, but I haven't been able to sleep. So
Okay.
I'm assuming that he plays up until, at least 12 a.m. or even past that. Because I know there were a few nights that I just couldn't go to sleep.
He kept you up.
Mm-hmm.
Jenny, have you had the opportunity to talk with any of your neighbors about their experience and the music?
I haven't really spoken to them about, how they're feeling about the music, but the sentiment that I'm feeling and the fact that all these neighbors are talking about this uncle who came and who changed the whole music here. Like, I think not everyone is welcoming this change.
Okay, and then also when you can hear the music, are your windows open or closed in your house?
Well, I opened it when he played cello.
Yes.
Now I close it, but I can still hear it, like as if he's in my next room.
Okay, wow, that's very loud.
Mm-hmm. So safe to assume that if it's bothering you this much 5 houses down, it's definitely affecting the
Yes.
rest of the.
And sorry, one more thing that I forgot to mention is that his uncle also gave him a guitar to play. So he's like blasting the music and playing his guitar.
Definitely expressing himself.
Mm-hmm.
How old do you think Peter is?
He's either 13 or 14, but that teenage years.
Yeah.
Very
Okay.
impressionable.
And so then, Jenny, have you taken any steps towards talking to Peter about this, or maybe talking to Peter's family about this?
Well, no, but I am here because there was one incident where I felt like he was purposely targeting me with his loud, obnoxious music because I was having a book club with my friends at my house. And then he starts playing his music and saying, books suck. So that's not a coincidence.
Jenny, had you had any interaction with Peter prior? Would there be any reason for him to have any negative feelings towards you?
No, not at all. Because like I mentioned, I did enjoy his cello music.
Okay.
It was tolerable. So there was no negative interactions between us.
What about the uncle?
Uncle, no, because he was just there temporarily, like just visiting for a birthday party. So
Has the uncle been back to the house at all?
no, he left after the birthday party.
So not to beat this too much, but there's no reason to assume that Peter would have any reason from his family or otherwise to directly target you with his music. Is that correct?
Well, Yes, except for the fact that he like targeted my book club.
Okay,
Yeah.
but no motive behind that would have
Right.
happened in the past.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
How do you think he knew that you were having a book club?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I just look like a person who holds book clubs.
Or maybe Peter doesn't like school.
Yeah.
Okay, so we haven't taken any steps as of yet to discuss with Peter or his parents,
Mhm.
correct?
That's correct.
But you are aware of some talk in the neighborhood that other people are also disgruntled.
Yes.
Okay. And Jenny, just to go back towards what you said earlier, you go to sleep at 8 p.m., you said?
Yes.
Is that an every night thing?
Yeah, because I'm old and I'm weak.
So yeah, you like your beauty sleep early.
Yes.
That's fair enough. I just wasn't sure if you worked late shift
Oh
work
no,
or
I
anything.
retired, so
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, Jenny, is there anything else we should know about the circumstances surrounding this?
Well, like at the end, I'm here because I just want this to end. I just
Mhm.
want to go back to my peaceful quietness. I don't even want to hear the cello anymore. I just want peace and quiet. The reason I moved to this new neighborhood, because I just can't stand, hearing to this loud music. It hurts me mentally, and like it's just too much for me.
Mhm. Fair enough. It's difficult when our circumstances are just changed rapidly and we have to adjust. Okay, so then obviously one of our goals is to minimize the amount of noise that you're exposed to. How would you feel if it was something that was limited just to the daytime, like, and reserved, maybe if we're going to take some steps to try and limit noise exposure just to the evening so you get your sleep?
I think that really depends on my hearing, like how, like we need to see at what level of playing would not bother my hearing. So I think that really depends.
Okay. Okay, so you'd want a little bit of assurance that it wouldn't be too bothersome if he was still playing in the morning time.
Exactly.
Got it.
Are you usually home during the day?
Yes, I am.
Do you have any other questions for Jenny?
I don't have any further questions for Jenny. I think we can move into goal seeking.
Okay. Okay. Unless there's anything that you think is relevant, I know it's hard to know what's important, but if there's any information that even if it's tiny that we might need to know in order to best represent you.
Well, I do have like very sensitive ears and
Okay.
hearing. And, ever since I was a very young child, I was diagnosed with hyperacusis, which is having very sensitive hearing to any frequencies or certain levels of sound. So that's, we would need to kind of work out, if we were to still allow Peter to play his music, it needs to be at a level that doesn't bother my hearing at all.
Okay. Do you know what level, like say what decibel level?
I have to check with my doctor.
Okay. Is this something that has gone before? Like, have you had any similar incidents in the past?
Well, yes, because I was diagnosed with this since I was a child.
Yeah.
That's why I purposely chose librarian as my career, because I wanted to be somewhere where it's just quiet. And that's the reason I moved to this neighborhood too.
Okay. How much distance would you say? Like, I think you said 5 houses between your house and Peter's house.
Mhm.
Roughly
Like
distance wise.
500 meters.
Okay.
Yeah, I would think.
Rough estimates.
Yes.
Okay. So, Jenny, I've written down what your desires would be should we take some steps to rectify this issue. I understand the hyperacusis must be a very difficult thing for you to manage and deal with, and this is probably very distressing. As you mentioned, you're dealing with some perhaps depression and anxiety surrounding this. So first and foremost, I want you to understand that what I do to aid you with that, we are here for you in terms of finding resources and whatever it may be. I do want to walk you through what I think might be a realistic next step for you.
Okay.
And also to have a bit of a frank discussion on terms of what your expectations could be surrounding the resolution of this issue. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Like I said, I'm very mindful that this is a difficult thing that you're going through. And I want to be honest with you so that you know what can actually transpire here.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So first and foremost, I think the noise in the evenings is something that we can quickly do something about. I'd have to review the bylaws in your areas, but definitely there will be a time between which loud noises will not be permitted. So that's something that Sophie and myself can easily look up and try and enforce with Peter and his parents. It's up to you how we go about doing that. You have a neighbor relationship with them. Obviously, you have to see them. If you want, we could start with just a discussion that we could prep you to be able to actually have with Peter and his family himself. If you're not comfortable with that, we could also write a letter. And if that doesn't work, I think there are some cease and desist options that we could perhaps look into. All enforcing the bylaws that limit nighttime exposure. In terms of the music being played during the day, we will have to do some further research. I don't know if it is within our capabilities to enforce the level of noise and what people do during the daytime in their homes. Especially the proximity might be a small issue, given that you're 5 houses down. Just because I think it limits like the proximity that we have to the actual noise itself, notwithstanding the fact that you are suffering with hyperacusis and you have an exceptional circumstance yourself. I think also it might be fruitful if we have some discussions with the other neighbors, see what their feelings are about the music and see if they're also taking steps to address this, because it could just be something that the neighborhood themselves can work out together, especially if Taylor or Peter's parents want to have a resolution. Maybe they can make some agreement like for a time frame through which the music will be played. Okay, and then finally, just like a non-legal suggestion, perhaps we can discuss looking into some soundproofing for your home, for your bedroom or wherever it is that you perhaps read in the day and spend most of your time. That could be just a short-term solution. I know it's expensive, but for your peace of mind and your health, it would be fruitful.
Okay.
Does any of that sound attractive to you?
Yes, but I personally don't feel comfortable approaching Peter myself.
Fair.
So I appreciate your offers to do that on my behalf.
We can definitely do that for you. We can do that as early as tomorrow. Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, so thank you for sharing all of this information, Beth. Is there anything else that you'd like to share that hasn't been covered?
No, but if I do think of something, I'll contact you guys.
Perfect. That would be excellent. So after our meeting, Lindsay and I will consolidate our notes and then send you a summary of what has been provided. So please review it. If there's anything that needs correction or any updates to it, like anything that you would like to add, please just let us know. We'll update it. And so we've gone through some possible legal and non-legal options that may be of option to you. Right after this meeting, our legal assistant will send you a copy of our firm's retainer agreement. So basically, this is just a contract between you and our firm that describes the scope of the work that we'll be doing for you, as well as our fee structure for ongoing consultation and other such matters. So as mentioned previously, the fee for today's consultation is $100. Our hourly rate moving forward will be $300 per lawyer, and we will require that you put down a retainer in the amount of $2,000. All the details will be outlined for your reference in the agreement that we sent to you today. Okay, so we ask that you would return the signed agreement before we begin working on your file. So in the event that, of course, that you choose to retain our firm, if upon reviewing it, you've got any questions, you'd like to discuss anything, please just let us know. So as immediate next steps, Lindsay and I are going to forward you a summary of what was discussed and then breakdown of the legal and non-legal options that Lindsay discussed. So we've got a clear written plan of everything and our plan moving forward. So thank you so much for meeting with us today, Jenny. We really look forward to particularly working with you towards resolution, and we'll be in touch shortly.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jenny. Let's get some sleep.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anthony. My pronouns are he, him, and I was one of the first year. So I wanted to say hats off to you. That was very quick and you went through the entire thing. Also to the actor for being gracious and giving the information. I would say I really liked it. I thought the intro was really good. You also had a firm approach. You did the confidentiality, you did the retainer. And this would be the only critique that I hated the most when I was practicing, and that I would have to do like on a checklist every single time I would ever say it. Colloquial language such as fair enough, that sounds attractive to you. So, and then that kind of stuff would be like those last critiques at the very end, because I feel you have your at this level, you have your length done, you have your story done. It's more just catching those little fine tuning to just really wow the judges. So I would say I'm still wowed. It was really well done in such a short amount of time, and I'll defer to Yana.
Oh my God, that was so brief. I have like an essay written. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, good job, guys. That was so well done, and it was such a short. Like when you told me 15 minutes, I'm like, holy crap, how are they going to get through this in 15 minutes? But I know it's a little longer, but still very good job. I thought it was excellent that you guys gave a roadmap. And during actually our intensive this time around, we also had to do an interview, and I did a roadmap, and I was told by the judge that I was one of the only people that she's seen who's given a roadmap. And I think it's so important to tell the client what to expect during the meeting, because they have no idea. I thought after the client gave you guys all the information, you launched right into location, you know, how far away is the home? What is the time? Because you're already like brainstorming suggestions, like if it's at night, maybe we can do something versus if it's during the day. What are other people saying? Because there's power in numbers, you know, versus one neighbor versus, you know, all the neighbors going to talk to Peter and his parents. I did think that you fed the desire / outcome to the client, and sometimes like there's just no need to like beat them to it. Like let them do the job, let them tell you what you think should be the goal and the outcome. Because you said, you know, do you want to like, is there like a specific time you want them to feel need or something rather? And I think sometimes like in a meeting, you're like, I have no idea why this client is here. Like, I don't even understand what's going on. So letting them tell you first what their desires and outcomes are, and then it'll allow you to brainstorm additional solutions. So for example, soundproofing the home, like I think that is a creative solution. So that was wonderful. And I thought the retainer was a great explanation, the retainer agreement, because not many people know what a retainer agreement is. And I would have just made it a little bit more clear that you're not going to get started on any work before they do the retainer. Because you said, we asked that you prove that you like sign the retainer before we start working on the matter, but it was so sweet and cute. They could have assumed that like, oh, they're going to get started anyway. So just making that a little clear. And yeah, amazing. Good job, guys.
Thanks.
Yana gives really detailed feedback, so I don't have any like feedback for the actual situation. I just want to highlight a couple things for everyone here. I wish I would have thought of this before we started, but you can go on the client consultation competition website and get the criteria that's used to judge these, so you can get an idea of what they look for. Because I wish I would have mentioned it when I was up here earlier. But you aren't expected to have a substantive knowledge of the areas of law that you're doing these in. And that goes hand in hand with the negotiations as well. So for example, this was like a excessive noise thing. You don't have to know about excessive noise. The way the competition works is you get like a very brief memo from your fictional legal assistant. And the memo is like a sentence, right? It's like, Jenny's coming to you today to speak to an issue she's having with her neighbor, or like something about noise. It's like incredibly broad. So you don't be intimidated by the fact that like you don't know the areas of law that it may be in. The client counsel competition, they give a theme every year. So last year was sports and entertainment, right?
Yeah.
And then you guys were children and family?
I think it was
Women and children.
women and children.
Women and children.
And human rights.
Oh, and
It was
human
like
rights. But you don't have to have like a substantive knowledge of that area of law. And the same thing goes with the negotiation competitions. Like negotiation competition, you're usually negotiating so you don't have to go to court. So if they start talking about the law, you're like, what are we doing here? We're negotiating. But if you look at the criteria form, you can see that it's something that you can really easily build to. The first criteria is establishing a professional relationship, and then obtaining information, learning your client's needs, goals, expectations, giving them legal and non-legal options. Usually the legal options are very preliminary, like a demand letter, written notice to the client or to the other party, and then like how you conclude the interview. So it's stuff that like don't be intimidated by. I had one other thing. It might come to me later, but I think that's it. Did I miss anything? No?
I thought you covered everything.
Oh, and if you make the client counsel team, I'll be one of your coaches. So that's fun. So try out that team. But yeah, that's it for me.
Can we just go over what the secret was? I think for some
Oh,
of us
sure.
that don't know how client consults work, there was secret information that Jenny was, or they were to ask the right questions for Jenny. I'm not sure if that happened. It happened. It happened.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
go for it.
Lindsay, like, is there anything more you want to tell me? And then I said, I was diagnosed with hypertension as a child. That was, and then with that information, we can really dive into, I'm more sensitive person, person does not have just.
All right, thank you, judges, and thank you for the demo. That is everything for the demonstration part of this. Anyone have any questions for the judges for the after the demo consult?
Frequent questions about what it is you might be doing.
Yeah.
Some of us been through that. So
Yeah, sorry. This is for Anthony, I guess. I noticed you mentioned colloquialism. I always thought that would be a good way to bridge a gap between a potential clients to adopt a different manner of speech. So if that's something that they're not looking for.
It'll depend on your judge and it depends on the content, which I think is like the lawyer's answer to get out of anything. So I would say that you should avoid the colloquial words that you use to pause or when you're thinking. So, you can't respond to a client and say perfect, right? That was my issue. My issue is that I would always say perfect, let's move on to the next thing. But you can't do that, right? Because it's not perfect. You can't say it sounds attractive because it's not attractive, right? So it's those little things and then filling in the so's or the transitions to make them more eloquent, essentially. You're welcome.
I think at the client interview stage, after you gathered all the information, are you giving them any sense of what the outcome may be like, or refrain from that because you haven't been able to do the necessary work?
I think like even in real life, you should refrain because the law is so large and you never know like what little fact might come out. Like imagine if we didn't find out that the client is sensitive to noise and you give one advice and you're like, everything is going to be amazing and great. And then you find this out and then the other 4 neighbors or 5 neighbors hear no sound and you're like, oh crap. Like I'm going to have to come back and tell the client something totally so. I think saying that we need more research time, or we can start here and there, but not giving them an outcome is the way to go. And I think sometimes the clients may even test you for that and say like, well, what is the likelihood of this happening and that happening? You have to be very careful not to give them that answer because you never know. And also some judges have a bad day, like this is already going into real life. And then they decide the way you didn't expect them to decide and then appeals happen. So I would refrain from that.
Just a quick follow-up. How do, I think it's probably outside our scope, but just in case, how do clients handle, or at least, how do lawyers handle like clients possible price? Because even sitting here, I had a price. So I don't ever want to have to use a lawyer.
Right shot. Well, if you really want to be, you're taking it from 2 people that one saying that we would do it pro bono without consulting a partner at our final round. And it caused quite the debate amongst the judges because of how the context of where your client's coming from. I wouldn't use that in your assignment. I would say that you could tease it very, very small amount of it. You could tease the idea in case they are a vulnerable community or in case they're in a dangerous situation or there's something that's very immediate that would affect your client right away. So I think that would be the balancing act, but price shock is usually not going to be something that occurs. Your assignment's going to be given a price and that's all there is to it. Just make sure you include HST.
I can just add something to that too. For the purpose of those competitions, it's usually in the rules. It will say like discuss your fee structure and you have some sort of leniency or discretion in waiving your fees, which is always like kind of challenging because you have to almost take into consideration who your judges are. Some judges really like it, and other judges are like, lawyers get paid. Like, it just depends. So, yeah.
In terms of being evaluated by the judges, I saw that there were like people taking notes, or the lawyers were taking notes. Is there anything that's submitted after the fact? What the judges would hear orally?
Yeah, just whatever they would hear orally, that's it. And sometimes they don't hear things, so it's like important to use keywords like goals, desires. And they're like, oh, great. But then you mention goals once and they're like, oh, you never asked about goals.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Roadmap?
what?
There was also one portion of the simulation you didn't see, which is when the interview concludes, then the lawyers will then have a short discussion amongst themselves about next steps. And just for the purpose of time, and I think for your assignment, you didn't do that, but that would be included in that as well.
I believe that the Juror 102 assignment does, depending on who your practitioner is, does have you submit a version of it, of the notes you've been taking and whatnot. So that's very much subjective to how you take notes and what your practitioner has said. I'll also highlight before I forget, if you're in Erin's classes and Erin's your practitioner, those are very confidential. Do not share that information, okay? Because when you get these fact patterns, it really wrecks the experience for other people when you start sharing information with others. And it's supposed to be a fun experience. This is a non-competitive way to like do an interview and learn from it. So yeah, don't ruin it for yourselves.
And that's true in competition as well. Yeah, when you're competing, you try secret information, and if you share it, it's grounds for like objection, like positive objection. It's not just frowned upon.
You would get removed from the competition, but also like if you know the other side's secret information, you almost like can't negotiate because they'll like name a price, like let's say $100. Like, no, because you know that they don't have to accept that or that they can go lower. So it just kind of ruins it for everybody.
I had a question about kind of like the partnership. Also, might be a basic question, but like, how do you know who is going to speak at what times? And also in the outcome part of it, like only one person will be speaking. So what if the other partner disagrees with like the next step?
That came from a lot of practice.
Yeah, it's like the script was what we used for the actual competition back in March. So like from January to March, we prepared this. We know what each other is going to say. Like, we even know like the types of questions that we will ask, and then also we're on a Google Doc, so we can see like what we're typing, and then say like, I have a question about something that Lindsay's asking. So like, oh, let me ask this for us. Like, we would talk to each other on that as well.
The chat function was hot.
Yeah. Last year, like for competition, everything was online. Grace K and I were putting together. We actually set up a second camera so we could see each other writing, and we actually had our names down. We'd just be like, listen.
Can you use templates for an interview? So if I was doing this, I would like to have a template that would help me make sure that I remember each point, and are we allowed to use them as tools specific?
You should use them.
Yeah.
I think you should. You should have a roadmap that goes from like introduction, roadmap, admin stuff, info, like information gathering, solutions, and then your next steps. Like build the roadmap. There's so many out there. Just find the one that works best for you. And for the transitioning, you're going to be able to get like me and Yana can tell when the other is trying to transition to the other. We have tells that we know our tells, right? And so that's how we will communicate in person as well as online.
And also like pre-drafting questions. So I don't know how much that you're giving for your tort assignment, but like even going through like a legal test and thinking about, well, okay, so it sounds like there's a case, but is there something about my client that's a negative? So always like put on the other hat and try to figure out like, what is the secret fact?
One more.
I'm just wondering where we can keep a look at it for the application deadlines and all that.
So the tryout will be mid-November, and probably 3 weeks before that, we'll like bombard you with like emails, posters, calendar. I'm actually about to send everybody a link to our events calendar, which I encourage you to accept, but it will all be there. You will not miss the thing. Yes.
Urge you please get it on the SEE calendar, because that's where all our events will be posted as well. And just so you know, we'll actually have a similar situation happening before the Lincoln Alexander Cup with a demo of what the negotiation looks like. So you will know exactly what to expect with the Lincoln Alexander Cup. So we will also bombard you with a lot of information regarding Lincoln Alexander Cup. And if you're like part of our membership through the website, you will not miss it. All right.
And if you haven't signed up, sign up. We'll
Yeah.